The management education scenario in India has followed pretty much the same path for about a decade. You got into a prestigious institution, you obviously got your credentials, and then placements did the rest. We have with us Dr. Pramod Kumar, president at ISB&M, who brings decades of experience in shaping management education. We're also delighted to be joined by Mr. Rajesh Padmanabhan, CEO of Talavvy Business Catalysts, who brings in the market and hiring perspective today. Hello and welcome to this very, very special webinar by ISB&M, which is post-graduation in management and high-growth career, the missing link today. We've got with us two excellent speakers today. But before we get into the speaker introductions, let me give you a little bit of a perspective as to what exactly we're discussing here today. The management education scenario in India has followed pretty much the same path for about a decade. You got into a prestigious institution, you obviously got your credentials, and then placements did the rest. Now, this is a path that can still be followed, but it's a path that is perhaps not quite enough for a high growth career. So why is that? That's because India's growth story and India's economy is also changing perhaps faster than most realize. Just take GCCs, for example. According to the NASSCOM GCC Annual Report 2024 and the Zenov 5-year GCC Landscape Report 2025, India has over 1,800 GCCs that employ nearly 2.4 million professionals and contribute over $60 billion in revenue annually. Besides this, of course, we see a lot of sectors, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's logistics, whether it's infrastructure and finance, also moving away from metros to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So this basically means that the opportunities now are much more varied, but they're also much more demanding. So how does one actually deal with this shift? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be discussing, and with two very, very renowned speakers who are going to be telling us why it's not about whether we choose an MBA or a PGDM. It is about the kind of program we choose, whether it aligns with what the market actually is today. And to help us to unpack this further, we have with us Dr. Pramod Kumar, president at ISB&M, who brings decades of experience in shaping management education. He's a PhD from IIT Mumbai. He's held leadership roles at IIM Ahmedabad, XLRI, and Symbiosis, and he's a consultant to over 80 companies worldwide, author of 100 plus publications, and advisor to government committees on management education. We're also delighted to be joined by Mr. Rajesh Padmanabhan, CEO of Talavvy Business Catalysts, who brings in the market and hiring perspective today. He's someone who's seen how graduates perform once they enter the workplace, what accelerates careers, and what holds people back. So the idea is actually to connect these two views today, because at the intersection of these two views, we can understand what really needs to be pursued, whether it's an MBA, whether it's a PGDM, and what kind of program would actually suit your high growth career the best. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. Any opening thoughts from both of you?
Well, that's a very interesting theme and issue to talk about, and especially in this context where the education in India has expanded very big, very big. It never was before, on one hand. On the other hand, of course, there is a great deal of expansion in industry, and the workforce no longer remains domestic. Indian workforce is being relocated as well. So in this context, I think this discussion holds a lot of merit and value. And also, as a student, a student has to say, okay, what do I study? How do I study? Where do I study? What value to me and what future to me? So it's a big, sometimes a lot of choices are more painful than few choices. Okay.
Yes, lots of choice. And I think that can be confusing, but I hope we bring clarity through our conversation today. And Rajesh, sir, any opening thoughts before we delve deeper into the discussion?
Thanks so much for having me. Delighted to be here. Fortunately, I bring industry, consulting, and entrepreneurship, all three. And I've worked in seven different industries and seven different functions. So, will possibly bring a lot of convergence between talent, technology, and transformation, if that helps. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, that certainly helps from many, many different angles, I'm sure. So, thank you for giving us a very multifaceted perspective, which we look forward to on the show today. So, thank you both so much. And let me first come across to Dr. Kumar. We spoke about your wealth of experience, 3 decades, if I'm not mistaken. So, I know this is a very big question to ask, but how have you seen management education really evolve in 3 decades? What has stood out the most for you? What do companies look for now that they may not have even thought of 3 decades ago?
Sure. Let me start from 90s. Historically, management education was looked upon as one more education.
Hmm.
You learn, you study, you learn, and probably sometimes very scholarly, and as a result, conceptual and theoretical. It takes me back to the days when I was a professor in XLRI. The and XLRI handed me a responsibility because I was consulting with a lot of companies. So XLRI handed over me a responsibility saying I should also look into the campus placement.
Hmm.
So in that, obviously being a professor in the class and uh, being also responsible for the campus placement, it changes your approach. And perspective. So I remember one of the full faculty meetings we had, the and one of the professors raised, raised a big question to me that are we an educational institution or are we a placement bazaar?
Hmm.
Rightly so, you can understand institutions at that point in time really never thought that we educate them for the job. They thought that we educate them for some kind of some, some learning, something that they must learn. And job and career should be left to them and themselves. They should be able to handle themselves. Was an outlook. Was an outlook if I go back to early 90s, which did change over a period of time with the mid 90s and sudden explosion of especially the banking sector, opening of Indian economy and then banking sector coming in a big way and entry of technology companies. At that time, the technology wasn't the way it is today. I mean, it was nowhere close to what it is
Hmm.
today. Okay. The Microsoft did not exist. Okay. And that's Office 95. So those Windows. Okay. So and then came the era of late 1990 and early 2000, where the you had some recessions and all those issues coming in, and the greater privatization, greater entry of private schools and institutions, and they also started going large, building their reputation bigger, challenging the existing players, who were very well known at that time. From a student's perspective, a market for fewer to an abundance, and institutions also started dealing with newer kind of approach to education. As we looked at it in International School of Business and Media, which is what ISB&M is, when I remember when I launched this education in year 2000 in Pune, my approach was that, look, this is not another just degree, another degree, or another certificate. It's a professional education. It is not just education, it's a professional education. And a professional education must blend two important things. One is theory, knowledge, and insights. After all, we need ideas, we need thoughts, we need insights, which could be more organized, more systematic. But all ideas need to be executed. And idea, thought, and insight that cannot be put in action cannot be a business.
Absolutely.
Many business ideas begin as a good idea and do not succeed. You can't live without an idea.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You basically need the follow through, essentially. Yes. And I think what you've also pointed out, excuse me if I jump in, you pointed out there's been so many phases to this, basically, with management education, and there've been so many cycles which all of us have seen, which the world has seen, and which, of course, management education has to tailor itself to. So it's almost like a shift in mindset that you have to keep having. So, and a lot of people these days say, MBA is a mindset, PGDBM is a mindset. What do you feel about that? In terms of what does that actually mean on the ground? That it's not just something you're learning; it's a whole new mindset.
When I look at it, I recognize that when we have 300 plus students doing MBA or PGDM with us, they come from 300 different homes. They come from 100, more than 100 locations. They have their own upbringing, they have their own conditioning, they have their own value system, they have their own mindset. Now, on one side. On the other side, if you look at industry, world over, I'm talking globally. If you look at globally, the working executives training worldwide, of the total budget of the worldwide training, almost 65% of it is spent on behavioral training. Even today, in industry, you say, okay, I have a team, my senior team needs a better leadership training. Okay. So one side of it is that I learn domains. We simply need to look at it like a surgeon, like training a surgeon. You imagine a surgeon who is a college topper, okay, best of the colleges, and imagine if he says, when I operate on the operation table, I get nervous seeing the blood. Would you want this surgeon to operate you near and dear? Okay. So you need that personal orientation. You need that mental toughness. You need that a proactive look to understanding that every idea has to be executed. In year 2000, I used to say sometimes to my friends and said to myself that socially and in terms of professional expectation, I'm talking, the workplace behavior. India will change the way you see the changes in the United States because economic impact on the mindset, the lifestyle impact on the mindset, and India isn't the same country where you had high economic insecurity. Okay, they that well, I must find a job. If I don't get a job, how do I make a living? If I have a job, I can't kick a job because I have to make a living. That mindset has been gradually disappearing.
Absolutely.
So as a result, the students who enter in the business education, they enter with a lot of things. Okay, such as one of the things which am, I'm seeing coming up in the last 3-4 years very strong than it was before. Okay, is a mindset that I want to do marketing, but I don't want to do sales. Okay, I want to study finance. I'm not sure whether they have aspiration to do well or aptitude to do well in finance, but they think because it's a back, sit on the desk and do your job. And the new uh, uh, euphoria about business analytics. Okay. The general understanding among the students is you don't need to know mathematics, you don't need to know data, but you could know how to use some software and you can be a good analyst. So, but that's nothing new. They still keep happening. Okay, that's nothing new. Now, how do you uh, conceptualize and imagine that there could be business minus sales? And you could have everything brilliant in the business process. But can you really say, I do business and not and no sales? If we look at year 24 and 25, several CEOs, not one, not two, not three, not five, several, including in India, have had to step down, and are their tenure not extended? Are their tenure shortened and asked to exit or dropping sales? Okay, sales and revenues. So that's a mindset. Am I wanting to work? Yes, of course I'm wanting to. Okay, but what work I want to do? So one important understanding, I think, as a business school, I see it as a challenge to me to develop a business mindset, and move away from management and marketing mindset.
Interesting. Very interesting point indeed. I think that brings it gives a lot of clarity to all those who are watching this actually at the moment. What kind of mindset do you have to move into? If you want to pursue a high growth career after your post graduation in management, and what you've said makes total sense. And I want to come back to a point that you made earlier as well. You said there are a lot of people who are coming here, obviously, to your institutions from 300 different homes, with very different mindsets, bringing it back to that. And these people, like what we started the whole conversation with, the opportunities are really varied these days. You could be working in a tier 2 or tier 3 city in India, or you could be working in a New York or a Singapore. How does a management institution actually prepare students for either or both of these kind of opportunities in their career going forward?
Okay. I think share with you an interesting example when you talk this. In 2006, we had a girl who joined our PGDM program. Okay, and she came from a very, very small town. Very small town, lower middle income group, home of, from the north, which is a city on the borders of UP, Bihar, and MP. In no, this some border. Okay, the she, of course, was intelligent. She had education. She, but she never lived in a city like Metro City, and these are first time to business education. She had never worked. You know what she's doing now?
Please tell us.
She
Take us out of
is,
the suspense.
is a senior director charge of Walmart Technologies in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Okay. And before that, she was in Amazon with postings in Europe, different parts of Europe. Before that, and then actually, Amazon took her to Washington into the corporate HR role. Okay. Likewise, there could be several examples I could be sharing. Challenge over there is uh, to get students to understand that look, your history is behind, your future is ahead, and you learn to live for the future. Point one. Point two. You must belong to where you want to go. Okay. So to belong to any new tribe, society, and whatever you mind, or term you may want to use, there should be value system transformation. The value system, social habits, the attitude towards life, and your approach to everything you do must change. It doesn't take too long to learn an equation in quantitative tools, and it doesn't too long to learn some what is the definition of a grant or what is a cost. It doesn't take too long to mug any of these things up. But to belong to where you want to go can be very challenging, because it seeks complete transformation in your
Absolutely
approach, attitude, value system, and many things that you thought were all right for you, with you, are not relevant. Nothing wrong with anything. Sometimes the students do ask me this question: what's wrong with the way I am? And my answer to them is nothing wrong with anything. But do you want to be where you are? Do you, when you come to ISB&M, whichever city you came from, do you want to go back to your home? And if no, then where do you want to go? And you must belong there. So we always say to them that, look, when you study, I mean, this is one of the common things among in ISB&M is you are at a stage where think for yourself. You revisit your value system. Okay. Sometimes even I end up saying to students, you need to get to, or when you study here and come from different homes and so on, end up saying that you need to get over the ghost of your mom and dad. Okay. You don't need to see them all around you. you had a life of your own and redefine your life.
Absolutely. Redefine your life and get over the ghost of your mom and dad. I think that's good advice in general, not just for management education.
I
Rajesh, sir, if I can just come across to.
platform like that on social media for making this decision, but you are the but
We understood where you were coming from, sir. So it's we understood that you're basically telling people to transform into where they want to go. It's fine if they want to remain where they are or to go back. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you do want to go to where you set your heart
you should
on,
keep
then there
changing
is a certain
history and past.
transformation.
If
Absolutely.
you, I mean, your history brings you to a level where you are. But where
Absolutely.
you want to go is going to be a future.
So Rajesh, sir, let me just ask you this question. You are also someone, like you said, you've worked in so many different industries. I think seven is what you mentioned, and you've obviously seen, I think, a huge amount of talent. Tell us a little bit about what have you noticed about these young students who come out of, their post graduation in management. What are some of the qualities of the ones who actually really succeed? What do you think are those two to three things which sort of make someone stand out and also hold someone back? If you could give us a bit of a perspective on that.
Yeah, sure. And thank you so much. It's been a very interesting start. So I would have possibly gone a little different, but I'll flow into the conversation now. First and foremost, I think particularly hearing mindsets, behavioral challenges, and the last part, which came in as the as on the icing on the cake, the entire mindset and the ghost part of it was amazing. So I think let me flow into or let me dovetail into it. First and foremost, I think the biggest shift that I'm saying, the opportunity when we were at the peak in our industry, where we were shaping careers,
Mm.
we are shaping vulnerabilities now. And when I'm
Mm.
using the word vulnerability, I'm using it with a lot of positivity. It's not with any amount of caution. Vulnerability is a very positive competency. So we need to shape the amount of change, and it's no more change. We used to practice and we used to be championing change management. It's transformation at its best now. So it's like humongous amount of stuff changing upfront, or right before you start. You've got to be comfortable with that. So NBA, when they're out of the college or out of the B school, used to be like it's a ticket to a career. It's not a ticket to a career anymore. It's an accelerator. Number
Mm.
one. Number two, to answer your question very specifically, I think there are four things which actually the industry is looking at today. Where I'll wear my little bit of consulting lens, and I'll simplify this with an acronym called as SALT. SALT, SALT. Skills is what they're looking for. Second is adaptability. Just to dovetail into the earlier part of the conversation about the mindset, which Dr. Pramod said. The third one is learning agility. How quickly can you learn and adapt? And the last one is you need to have a tech orientation.
Mm.
So, along with your entire stuff in terms of what you do, the most important stuff today is schools and businesses and knowledge acquisition, the entire stuff in the world of competencies were being taught, were being, learned and were up on the curve. Now we've got to realize that intelligence is scalable. Intelligence can be borrowed. Intelligence is acquirable even at a later stage through machines and through other means. So now that brings us, and I'm so glad when he said that 65% of the stuff, the effort goes in the softer part of it. Now, what becomes important? Judgment, decision making, empathy, emotional intelligence. How do you really hold the entire balance? Prudence, the entire aspect of handling complexity, ambiguity. Now, these are all softer stuff,
Mm.
and one has got to be comfortable learning this. And this is where the cutting differences and the industry readiness part of it comes into being. So you can't be a keyboard simulator of a business case and come to the industry. You need to know what the industry part of it, again, just to connect with the business of the business knowledge and the business acumen, the business sense Dr. Pramod spoke about. You got to be so very real in terms of industry readiness. You need to know how to have sold something, failed. Now, failure management. Not too many people talk about it. Again, just as I said, vulnerability, failure management is again a huge competency. One need not worry about failures. The more and more you failed and the more and more you've seen such stuff, the better and better you get when you approach the industry. Now, there's a lot of mindset with respect to the industry, and I would have hired lakhs of people, lakhs of them. Uh, the mindset that CGPA or a CAT score or a nature of college is important is only a stepping stone at best. After that, it's pure performance, pure business impact that you create, and pure difference that you create to the entire workplace. That will cause the difference. So the entire aspect of how real can you get to how come out of a simulated and an environment to a real life situation is what is the huge connect, and that's the missing link. The closer you get to that, the better you are in terms of your relatedness and preparedness. Happy to get more into the conversation. So I'm sure your mind is running in terms
Absolutely,
of
yes.
builds. So I don't want to continue the monologue too
No,
long.
I'm going to
But
be delving into that more. So, I think the very fact that, thank you so much for that perspective. I think it gives us a lot of clarity as to what, students should be looking at, what should be the goal when they actually enter the workforce. And it's good to know that, like what we were saying, the softer skills are mattering. And of course, in this time of AI, no one can talk about intelligence now without us jumping in with that, and of course, the fact that empathy, context, judgment, all of that, in fact, in some ways becomes more valuable. And this is a question to both of you. Of course, talking about the kind of transformative times that we live in with artificial intelligence, a lot of people saying that we are in an AI first world. First to you, Dr. Pramod, how do you really even, tweak curriculums at this point of time to make sure that students are ready? And Rajesh, sir, if I could come across to you for your perspective on this in terms of how do students actually ready themselves for a world that is in the midst of so much transformation? Dr. Pramod, let's come to you first.
Okay. See, ever since 2000, technology had an influence in entering, and uh, if you ask me, even in 2000, I knew you'll have to look at technology skills like communication skills. It is not a technical skill. It is a basic skill that you need to have. Okay. Like your communication skill and the other social skills, decision making, problem solving, whatever you talk. So you said every professional should have the technology literate. Okay, that's now speed of influence of technology has gone up very high. Okay, the recently we were having a discussion on our courses and program restructuring and all that, and we said, okay, let's go back from 2000. So we discovered for our own kids, now it's 26 years. So a lot of times you forget what did you do in first year. Okay. I figured out that we had a course on artificial intelligence in 2000. Okay. Though at that point in time it was still a concept. It was still a concept. Okay. And at the best you had a little bit of it into some washing machine for the logic and all this kind of stuff, but it was still a concept. But today, it's a very general skill. Every educated, literate person should have it, and going forward will have it because it will come from children. You see, children who are playing around with mobile phone, I mean, they are handling AI of Google, they are handling AI of all these guys. So it will come as a very basic skill. Okay. Now, how do you use this in your business process? Well, I look at management program. The AI development is not your job. That's technology. That engineering graduates will do, and probably in the face of business graduates and engineering graduates will happen. But your focus should be how intelligently use intelligent technology. Okay. And usage of technology also you will have to be intelligent. So like today they are talking about prompt engineering. You know, we have been having a lot of discussion on it. Prompt engineering and so on and so forth. They, so how do I decide what prompt? Okay, where does it come from? So it will have to remain a blend of fundamentals in knowledge, fundamentals of process, good observation of business in your business experiences, not just a routine doing job as a routine, good observation because your observation also makes you intelligent. Okay. And these are the and then good at technology. These first three will enable you to say what prompt.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, ultimately, education gives us these basic blocks which will help us to build on it, and which is still crucial in the times of, artificial intelligence. Do you agree with that, Rajesh sir? And how does one really build on the basics of good education and take it forward in these times?
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm going to start with a little bit of a preamble before I answer your question.
Sure.
The track to the industry has undergone a change, and I'll give it in very simple terms. What used to be conventionally four-step track called as education, leading to jobs, leading to growth, leading to leadership. This was the conventional track 5 decades. Yeah. The change today is learning, experimentation, mind you, reinventing, and then growth. Now, this brings me to industry readiness from a campus level, and there are like 5 things that I would say which are really relevant if students want to keep themselves really relevant from an industry readiness point of view. First and foremost, real business problem, not simulated keyboard business simulation. I think there's a huge difference. You need to be right in the thick of a business situation. You need to know what the business problem is, and you need to be solving it on the floor. Yeah, a lot of them are like very good with keyboards, very good with simulation, and very good on the tech side. Yeah, that's not what I'm talking. So you need to be jumping in. Number one. Number two is if you build something fantastic. I think, and don't worry about failure because I'm coming to that. If you build something amazing, that shows a lot of creativity, that shows a lot of curiosity. Number two. Number three, if you sold something that you really know what's the business impact, and you exactly know you're right up there and you realize what this is leading to up the value chain. Fourth is I would bring back to the same point of failure management. Don't worry about any of those 3 steps that I said. If you failed, so be it, because you're walking up this repeated chain again and again, and it's recognized and it has a premium and a value in the industry if you failed. And the last one is you need to come with a mindset because the industry does not have anything called as a white collar job now. You need to know how to lead without title, without any kind of authority. I think that's gone. Yeah. If you're going to start with anything saying that I'm going to be a white collar, I'm going to manage a lot of people, and I'm going to be right at the top, you need to be at the center of leadership. You don't need to be at the top of its leadership to make a difference. Having said this, I'm moving to strong business skills that one needs to know. And this is where the connection of the entire tech part of it comes into play. If you're able to build a site stack as far as product and digital capabilities are concerned, you would be very industry ready. Whether you're pursuing marketing or operations or finance or HR or general management, doesn't matter. If you're really capable and building your product and digital capability on the side, it's a real strength, number one. Number two, if you've done some of the steps that I have said, you are aware and you have a mindset of business transformation. Yeah. And this transformation is there all the time. It's not an initiative. It's like a ticking DNA that you need to keep in you at all points of time. The third one is revenue generation and need to have that mindset. What is the business impact that I'm creating? Is it growth led? Is it really, and when I say growth led, I would even say commercial and social both. Huh? So don't get me wrong that I'm only targeting the commercial part of it. It's not that. Even if you're able to make a huge social difference, so be it. I mean, there's a lot of recognition of that part. The fourth one is I'm using the word consulting a little loosely when I'm using the word consulting. What I really mean is the roundedness that consulting brings and the problem solving abilities. Yeah. So even if you're thrown in the midst of something, you should know how to have survival skills and come out of that situation. Nobody's going to teach you. Nobody's going to throw
Life
a survival
raft.
kit at you. You need to
Mm.
know how to really come out of it. Yeah. And of course, industry experience is a sune pe suhaga. I mean, the more and more you build on it, I think it's the best. Now, career acceleration, career tracks, career journeys, career stations that we used to write for years and decades is all gone. Now, if you follow some of this stuff, you actually self propagate career compounding. Now, you're working on yourself. So the career is handed over to a learnee or for lack of a better word, I would use the word student if you're not in the industry, or to an associate when you join. So the career compounding part of it is important. Build like painlessly build reputation and integrity part of it. Network hard. I mean, don't network with peers and don't network with entry level community along. You should have the ability to really get into conversation with industry leaders, with thought leaders, with thinkers. Doesn't matter even if you get pushed, even if you're like vulnerable, you develop a lot of stuff. And mentorship. You need to have good mentors. I think pick your mentors. There are enough and more available because it actually prepares you and readies you. Have industry mentors. Have mentors much beyond academia, and ready yourself because they show you the mirror many a times. And taking difficult assignments and good amount of handling of if you so-called stress, which actually becomes reality in the industry, I think so much the better. I think this is some of the stuff. I know I've not put a pattern around it, but I think I've just thrown some of the realities in terms of what one could look at and how one could ready before jumping on into the industry.
Absolutely. And you may not have put a pattern around it, but I think you gave us a pretty clear set of points, that people should be following actually if they want to build a robust and resilient career in the times going ahead, because these are, uncharted waters that a lot of people are entering into basically. And, talking about, you said all the things that one must have. It was quite a long list and it may seem like an intimidating list to a lot of people. What are the things one shouldn't have, in the sense like what is the kind of mindset which is a no according to you?
I think the first one is hierarchical. I mean, having a mindset that I'm going to manage people, I'm going to manage teams. No one likes to be managed. Come out of that mindset. That's number one. There are nothing like corner offices, splurging and splash lifestyle. You may do it at your personal level, but there's nothing in a workplace that really, has that kind of a take in today's world. That's number two. Yeah. And number three is if the entire aspect of value systems and the inclusion part of it needs to be in. So even if you have the slightest iota of any kind of a difference or non-acceptance of inclusion or a diversity, I think it's a clear no. I think world of today is a complete inclusive workforce, and I'll possibly stretch a little more. One should also know how to include machines and the entire tech and digital into your workplace. The more and more you include with openness, the better and better you get. So don't have those kind of mindsets because this is key to the entire success. So absolute no on those three or four things that I mentioned. I think those really would be as ingredients of success, if at all.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that perspective. And Dr. Pramod, coming back to you, Mr. Rajesh has given us such a great list of the no's and the yeses. The yes list was quite a long one in terms of, what we really need to tick mark for a resilient career. A lot of people might look at that and, like I said, feel a little overwhelmed, feel a little intimidated. How do I even begin? How does an institution such as yours help them to at least get on that track, do you feel?
Okay. For, you see, there are uh, experiences. So, I mean, two or three things which we always say to the students is that you should be open to new experience. Okay. And recognize that everything is right. Okay. What is not right is what is not lawful. Okay, the law has already given us a list of things which are not right, and so everything which is not unlawful is is hopefully right. Now, so be open to new experiences. Now, our approach to it is we recognize that they come from homes, one child home, two child home, three child home. Oh, I must share with you a very interesting experience which I had in Delhi. One of these fancy schools of Delhi. He invited me to be a guest on their sports fest. They were having a sports festival in month of February, March. And so there was an inter-college school competition that was a final competition of football. So one of the biggest schools, very fancy schools of Delhi, playing with another one. So the sports teacher was sitting right behind me, was getting mad over her students. And she used a very interesting phrase, saying, I mean, you see, March is very warmer. I mean, not little warm, it gets quite warm in Delhi. Okay, hot in Delhi. So she used a very interesting phrase, sitting there, right behind me. And she basically getting me to. Okay. She says, ये एसी की औलाद ये फुटबॉल क्या खेल रही है. Okay, she's right. You born in a home which is economically highly enabling. You drive a car which is air conditioned. You go to school and classroom which is air conditioned. You go to a hotel and restaurant is air conditioned. You go to school where now the air conditioned. So how do you deal with it? Okay, the issue is not air conditioning. Issue is how to grow up to be all-weather person. Okay, can you pursue? Do you have the resilience, personal resilience to deal with? You see, all tools that we can talk, but experiences of course you need business insight, of course you need to learn systems, of course you need to learn processes, of course you have to have like Rajesh shared some of the things like mentorship and all these issues. You need to have people to guide you, to give you some wisdom, to support you, help you, and other needs. But you still need to build your resilience. When did we know that we will have a criteria? Talk to your finance minister and talk to your prime minister and ask them the pressure of this war. When you are counting every day on your diesel consumption and gas consumption, and only yesterday or a couple of days back, in Times of India, schools should be running the buses to bring children back and forth from home to school, or how to have done a study from home, whatever. Everything is not predictable. Learning to handle uncertainty, learning to handle pressures, having a doer's mindset. You know, it's much easier. I was reading about, I mean, some news about, some things about 50 years of Apple. Okay. And so at some stage, you got to get to saying, okay, uh, what we put on the drawing board has to be put in reality, and you need to have a doer's mindset. Okay, you need to have a doer's mindset. Your knowledge, your insight, your imagination, your vision, all of these give you ability to visualize the future.
Absolutely.
How
And I
do you,
think with
how do
the
Can
you,
I can I
yes,
can I
sure,
come in here after?
sure.
I think just want to stitch my mind also along with this. There are 4 or 5 things that the industry and the academia can do together. Because we said a lot of stuff, at the end of the day, where can the industry support? I think internships of high quality is very essential. Yeah. And the academia and the industry need to come together because the quality of internship, because that's where they get the entire business readiness. So that's very important. And we know that a lot of stuff gets converted from internship to, PPTs. So I think that's important, number one. Number two is the business exposure. As and when you have an opportunity, I think the academia needs to know the mindset of the industry. Industry is absolutely willing today to learn from the student community because a lot of learning is happening there, a lot of incubation, a lot of fresh mind. Because the vulnerability of the industry is something which the academia can tap into and actually convert that. And I would say with a lot of case competitiveness, case studies, there's a lot that can be handed over. And I've seen a lot of problem solving which has got done at the campus level, which would typically not have done. So that exchange also is very important. So the case competitiveness part. Tech trade fairs happen a lot in the industry. And I've yet to see a lot of student community come into that. Yeah. That is where possibly the entire learning is there at its peak. Because a lot of leaders come into the tech trade fairs and they know, wow, this is something which I've never seen like happening. But the students relate to this much better. So a lot of exposure to tech trade fairs. And finally, I think the AI toolkit, which has got to be readied along with the entire readiness of the curriculum, is something absolutely essential. And I'm sure the academia is doing it, no questions about it. They're doing it. But the AI toolkit also can be something which can be co-shared between the industry and the academia. And finally, I'm saying, the students who really dare to connect with senior mentors and senior like industry leaders, they're happy to do it. They're very happy to do it. It's just the approachability part of it that you need to come in. And it can't be just networking for the purpose of network. There needs to be a collaborative value that comes in. So an intelligent question will provoke a senior thought leader from the industry to actually say, wow, this is something which I would want to respond to. That you need to come into play. And that's where the entire industry academia interface can become stronger. So I possibly tried to solutionize as well, because I did, as you said, I threw up a long list, but it's important to say that how we bring that
No,
together.
it was a great list actually, and I think that's exactly what we need in terms of helping us to go forward. I just, gentlemen, since I think we are going to be running out of time shortly, I just want to fit in a couple of quick questions. Yes, yes, sir.
The new bunch of students wonder what this professor is doing here. I will get it on get it all from AI tools. So what is this professor doing here? Okay, you got to get a step ahead of me. Yeah. Not to get a step ahead of me. Okay, so let's go. Yeah, all yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And, talking about AI, I think we touched upon geopolitical tensions as well. There's a lot going on in the world right now, but when we come back to India, sir was talking about people who play football, but are ultimately from AC environments. If I could come to you, Rajesh, so what if from the AC environment to basically what are the hot sectors in the hiring space right now in India? What should young graduates be looking at?
I mean, you touched upon, and I think GCC is a great bet. Number one, yeah. Product companies. Product companies offer a lot today in terms of learning and reinventing and going through. I would put semicon something that's happening big. Quant AI and the entire R&D is something which again is a fantastic space. I'm talking of some conventional lines like defense also, which is a very upcoming hot skill with you said geopolitical situation. So defense is something which again and uses a lot of technology and transformation and all the stuff together. Product and embedded systems will always be a hot skill, will be always a hot industry. Automotive, EV, renewables, fantastic place to be in for the next decade. I mean, there's no looking back. I mean, there's huge stuff. AI, of course. I mean, AI has multiple stacks,
Yeah.
right from a chip to a complete engineering part of it. So you have multiple stuff. But some of the stuff which a lot of people not pursuing, which will become hot tomorrow, would be ESG. ESG again is getting into prominence. It's not seen mainstream today, but it will become mainstream because what the business is doing is important, but how the business is being run is also becoming more important than what the business is doing. Healthcare and I would say tech-driven manufacturing and supply chain. I think this is a fairly large stack. These are all the industries. Whatever I've said are all the industries of the future.
Absolutely. So thank you for giving us that perspective. And my final couple of questions to both of you. So if there is a young student now in 2026 trying to make the choice, MBA, PGDM, what should I do? What should be the first thing that they think of? What would be your one or two lines of advice to them? Dr. Pramod, let's come to you.
Okay, were you talking about difference between MBA, PGDM or something?
Yes, you can talk about that part of the question and also in terms of what do they do going forward, if you had one line of advice for them on that perspective.
Choose the right learning platform. It doesn't matter whether the title of the platform is MBA or PGDM. Okay. This is a regulatory issue. You need to buy university under university condition to be able to offer an MBA. Okay. Our government of India should give you a status of a university, which is by some act of parliament and or the assembly act and all that. Okay. Alternatively, the two carry the same value, meaning for industry and work life, there is no restriction. There are increasing. So as a student, just toss a coin and go. Okay. What you need to do is choose the right platform so that you learn and go. To choose the right platform, how do you decide it? My responsibility, best answer to you is review the alumni. If the track of trail of alumni, if they have done very well, you should expect to do very well. You should also expect to do very well yourself. Okay.
That's a good indicator.
That's the best indicator.
Fine, fair enough. That's a very clear point that you've given us. Rajesh sir, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. So if any student who's going to pursue anything around it, there's going to be a conflict between the heart and the mind. I would say go with the heart.
Always the best advice, I think.
Number one. Number two is, I think in the pegging order, in terms of what you're going to give out should be the world at large, the country next, the enterprise and its stakeholders, the team that you're going to work with, and you finally last. If you reverse that, I think there's a problem. If you start thinking of you ahead of your team or the enterprise or the nation or the world, then there's a problem. I think this thinking clarity has to be there as to how the entire values flow. And in terms of what you get in return, I would say I think there are three things that always stood in good stead: learning, growth, and experience. I can speak at length on this, but for the purpose of stuff, I'd leave it at this. Learning is what kind of learning that you get out of it. Growth, you define your own growth. I mean, there are no conditions attached to growth, because growth means different things to different people. And the third thing is very important, because the experience that brings the holistic part of you into something that you're going to buy, whether it's a career or whether it's an education or it's a track or something that you're going to build, needs to come together. So I gave you both the inflow, outflow, and the conflict in the heart and the mind. If you're able to stitch all of this, beautiful. I think you have a ready-made success for you.
Absolutely. And talking about stitching it all together, now we've seen quite a few perspectives. We've seen, of course, the program perspective from Dr. Pramod. We've seen, of course, the hiring perspective from you, Mr. Rajesh. So when we try to stitch it together, what do you feel are the gaps which still exist? And Dr. Pramod, if you could talk to us about how ISB&M actually, you feel, fills those gaps well.
See, we have very strong behavioral training. Like I said, that look, knowing finance, knowing technology, knowing all these tools is not very difficult. It's not very difficult. And one should know, because the way world is changing, you should pick up the new tools, new technology, new methods, new processes, and any business school will teach this. I mean, a business school which cannot keep pace with this should definitely be very bad. So any business school should be able to do it. Okay. How to cope with it. Let's understand this. You watch IPL. I'm very fond of competitive games. I like watching IPL. I like watching boxing. You know, when you compete to win, though you matter, are skills. You know, skills are fundamental. There is no competition between good and bad. There is a competition only between good and good. Okay. So whether you can do great job with a very systematic, organized player like Kohli, Virat Kohli, or you could be consistently uh, uh, bringing out results like your wife or Raghuvanshi is doing. Bring out results consistently. And everything that needs to be learned to bring that out should be done.
Absolutely. Well, consistency being competitive, good and good. The competition is always only between the good and the best, so to speak. And any final words from you, Mr. Rajesh, to close out our conversation?
If I have to answer a question, I lost the question. I must confess. So you will have to repeat the question, or you want my closing thoughts?
No. So essentially, what I was asking was, we were talking about stitching together the different perspectives that we had today. We of course had the perspective from Dr. Pramod, which is the program perspective, the campus perspective. We had a perspective from you, which was the hiring perspective. So I wanted to understand from you, when we stitched both your perspectives together, what are you still feeling are the gaps between education and outcomes at the moment, and final thoughts on how to fill them?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think the competition has got steeper. So if you're talking of India today, which produces 1.5 million engineers and about 400,000 MBAs, yeah, out of which only 10% are premier. So we're talking of, MBAs, 40,000 are real, the premier ones. Another 100,000 get reasonably good value for what they have done, but around 260 actually, from a role relevancy standpoint, is what they have done to what they get, are actually a little subordinate. I think some of the stuff that we said in terms of that entire readiness, focusing on the softer side, the entire readiness in terms of the tech capabilities and handling the emotive part of it, is very essential if you really need to fit into this entire game plan. So, skilling yourself so hard, you need to hard skill yourself constantly in terms of relevancy. The industry is all they're interested is role relevancy. And if you ask them to define role relevancy 2 years from now, the industry will not struggle. It will fail miserably to tell you what the role relevancy should look like because the industry itself does not know what
Doesn't
it's
know.
what
Yeah.
it's asking for. Yeah. So this vulnerability part of it that I said, don't fear about the world of tomorrow. Ready yourself for today. Keep yourself up the learning curve, keep growing in that mindset, deal with failures, and keep on renewing yourself again and again. That entire zone from experimentation to reinventing is the real key in terms of industry. And you will keep going through this back and forth till the time you strike growth. Yeah. And that is what is because it's not a linear growth or a linear track in the industry anymore. It's very non-linear. It's very cyclical. And one has got to be comfortable with that, but that's reality. So I think don't worry about it. Have the passion and the belief, and I'm sure they'll be able to do it very, very well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for those closing remarks, gentlemen. And I think you showed us that the missing link is not just a single factor. There is a lot more to it than that. And of course, choose something like Rajesh sir said, which if there's a conflict between your mind and your heart, always go with your heart and always choose growth, choose resilience. And you should surely have, a high-powered career ahead. And we look forward to many people actually taking your advice and climbing the career ladder for many, many years to come. Thank you, gentlemen, both for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on in this show along with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Rajesh, nice to see you.